It starts with one person, a whisper in a group chat, a headline half read, a stranger's face frozen in worry at the grocery store, and within hours, without a single virus particle changing hands, something else has already spread. Not a disease, a feeling. And the strange part is, fear doesn't need contact. It doesn't need proximity. It doesn't even need truth. It just needs a nervous system willing to receive it. And every nervous system is willing. This is how panic moves faster than any pathogen ever could. Not through blood or breath, but through attention, through eye contact, through tone of voice, through the way someone says, "Did you hear about," and doesn't finish the sentence. Because fear isn't just an emotion, it's a signal. And signals travel at the speed of perception, not infection. Let's start with what's actually happening biologically. When a human brain detects a threat cue, even a second-hand one, even one it only heard about, it doesn't ask for evidence first. It reacts first. This is called the threat detection bias. And it exists because for most of human history, hesitation got you killed. Your ancestors who paused to verify whether that rustling in the grass was really a predator didn't get to pass on their genes. The ones who ran first and asked questions later did. So you inherited a brain that treats maybe as if it means yes. A brain that would rather be wrong 1,000 times than right too late once. Now here's the twist. That same wiring that once protected you from lions now reacts to headlines, to rumors, to a friend's anxious text at 2 a.m. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a real threat in front of you and a vivid description of one. Neurologically, imagine danger and witness danger activate almost the same circuits, which means you don't need to see the fire to feel the heat. Someone just has to describe it well enough. This is why fear spreads faster than viruses. A virus needs a host, a vector, a biological pathway. Fear needs none of that. It needs a story. And stories move through language, through screens, through a single glance between two strangers who both just realize something is wrong. Psychologists call this social contagion, and it works almost exactly like emotional wildfire. One person's nervous system destabilizes, and instead of staying contained, it leaks, through facial expression, through vocal pitch, through the subtle tension in a room that everyone feels but no one names. And here's the part that should unsettle you. You don't have to believe the threat is real for your body to respond as if it is. Just watching someone else panic can trigger the same physiological cascade in you. Elevated heart rate, shallow breath, a tightening in the chest. This is called emotional contagion, and it bypasses your rational mind entirely. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that would normally ask, "Wait, is this actually true?" gets overridden by a faster, older system. The amygdala doesn't wait for permission. It just sounds the alarm. So when panic starts moving through a group, a city, a timeline, it isn't spreading because people are foolish. It's spreading because they're human. Because the same mechanism that once let a village outrun a wildfire together now lets a rumor outrun the truth. Fear was never designed to be accurate. It was designed to be fast. But there's something deeper going on. Something most people never stop to examine. Fear doesn't just spread because of biology. It spreads because of uncertainty. And uncertainty is unbearable to the human mind in a way that even bad news isn't. Studies on anticipatory anxiety show something strange. People will often choose a guaranteed negative outcome over an uncertain one, just to escape the discomfort of not knowing. This is why panic accelerates in the absence of clear information. When no one knows what's actually happening, the brain doesn't default to calm. It defaults to worst-case simulation, because imagining the disaster feels, paradoxically, safer than sitting in the unknown. And this is where panic becomes self-feeding. One uncertain moment produces anxious behavior. Anxious behavior gets witnessed by someone else. That person's brain interprets the behavior as evidence that something is wrong, even without new information. So they become anxious too. And now there are two anxious people instead of one, and each of them is unknowingly confirming the fear of the other. This is the invisible mechanism behind mass panic, behind bank runs, behind empty shelves during a scare, behind the strange collective momentum that makes a crowd move like a single frightened organism. You may ask, why would evolution build something so easily hijacked? Because the cost of the system was never about being right. It was about being fast enough, often enough, to survive the moments that mattered. A brain that occasionally overreacts to a false alarm is still alive. A brain that underreacts to a real one is not. So natural selection didn't optimize for accuracy. It optimized for margin of safety. And that margin, that built-in tendency to assume the worst first, is precisely what makes fear so contagious now. In a world full of information, but starved of context. Here's the part nobody tells you. The people most susceptible to panic contagion aren't the weak-minded or the irrational. They're often the most attuned. The most emotionally perceptive people pick up on subtle threat signals faster than anyone else, which means they're usually the first to feel the shift in a room, the first to sense something is wrong before it's confirmed. That sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's the same instinct that once kept your ancestors alive. But in a hyper-connected world, that same sensitivity means you absorb everyone's fear, not just your own. So what happens when fear becomes ambient? When it's not tied to one event, but constantly circulating through headlines, group chats, and passing conversations? Your nervous system never gets the signal to stand down. It stays in a low simmer of alert, waiting for a threat that never fully arrives and never fully leaves either. This is why chronic exposure to panic-adjacent information, even when nothing is happening to you directly, can leave you feeling depleted, on edge, unable to relax in rooms that are actually safe. Your body doesn't know the difference between a threat in your life and a threat on your screen. But here's the truth that changes everything. Fear spreads through certainty of danger, not evidence of it, which means the antidote was never more information delivered faster. It was regulation delivered calmer. When one person in a room stays grounded, breathes slowly, speaks steadily, something remarkable happens. Their nervous system becomes a signal too. Calm is just as contagious as fear. It travels through the same channels, tone, posture, presence, but it moves slower because it isn't riding on urgency. It has to be chosen, and choosing it in the middle of collective panic is one of the hardest things a human can do. This is why some people become anchors during a crisis, while others become amplifiers. Not because of intelligence or bravery, but because they've trained their nervous system to tolerate uncertainty without immediately translating it into alarm. They've learned to sit with not knowing instead of resolving it prematurely with worst-case thinking. And that skill, tolerating ambiguity, is quietly one of the most powerful psychological tools a person can develop, because it interrupts the contagion at the source. So the next time you feel panic rising, not from something happening to you, but from something you heard, something you read, something you sensed in someone else's voice, pause and ask yourself a different question. Is this fear responding to a real threat, or is it responding to another person's fear? Because most of the time, what you're feeling isn't your own alarm. It's an echo. And echoes only get louder when everyone keeps repeating them. Fear will always move faster than facts. That's not a flaw in humanity. It's the oldest survival software still running. But you are not required to pass every signal along unexamined. You can be the one person in the room who feels the fear and still chooses to breathe first. Not because you're fearless, but because you finally understand what fear actually is. Not truth, just speed.